I was sitting there in the room when the ping pong balls, and you got to about that last ping pong ball, and you could see Ethan Purser, who was there, and for representing the Guardians, like, I think he's figuring out that this could happen here.
Number 1 overall pick, number 1 overall prospect in the Cleveland Guardians organization. Let's talk about Travis Bazzana. It's a Baseball America prospect profile. Scott Braun, J.J. Cooper, Geoff Pontes. Geoff, number 1 overall pick by Cleveland. And they were pumped to have the first pick because it's a pretty good team that ended up making it to the ALCS. So will we see Travis Bazzana contributing to this team in 2025? You know, I like to hit you with the hard hitters right off the jump.
I'd say if there's one spot in that infield that seems to have a hole at this point, at least long term, it's probably second base. And I wouldn't be shocked that, if Bazzana hits the way he did for 3 years at Oregon State early on in the minor league season this year, that, maybe by August, certainly by September, he'll probably see some time with the Guardians. I think when you look at the player overall, just an absolute master of his craft when it comes to hitting. And I think the work and just the work ethic, sort of the stuff behind it, his understanding of who he is as a hitter. I've written about this before. He's really into the numbers. He really knows, what he wants to do and the type of hitter that he wants to become. What he is he's somebody that pairs and sort of blends really excellent bat to ball skills with really good approach, and the ability to hit for some power, despite being sort of a hit tool first player, is looking to pull the ball in the air consistently, get his swing at a point that he can consistently backspin the ball and get the most out of his power. He knows he's not the biggest guy in the planet, and that, getting into his pull side power consistently, particularly on certain types of pitches and certain pitch locations, is going to allow him to put up the most production, over the course of his career. I think just a really good all-around player. He's not going to play shortstop. He's going to play second base. He's really solid there defensively, a really good base stealer as well. I wouldn't say quite 5 tools because it's not a great arm, but, when we look at this player, particularly from the offensive standpoint, I think has a chance to be, a multi-time all-star and a big star in the middle of that order for the Guardians for years to come.
The thing that it just jumps out to me about Travis Bazzana is I feel very comfortable, very confident that he's going to be that kind of player who just keeps getting better, who keeps refining, who keeps improving, because he is kind of a cage rat. He is one of those guys who likes to find a challenge, attack it, and get better at it. We saw this in his last year going in his draft year, where it's like, okay, he had some things to work on. He wanted, and Geoff just mentioned a couple of them, where it's like he just gets better. He's a guy who's going to spend his offseason. I'm kind of excited to see, okay, what has he improved at this year in the offseason? Because he looks at the offseason as an opportunity to fix, improve, get better at something for the next year. And those are the kind of guys a lot of times. I mean, it can be a balance, right? You don't want to overdo it, but those kind of guys are the ones who often can make that 4th, 5th, 6th adjustment, because nowadays in baseball, it is point, counterpoint. You do something, then the pitchers do something else, then you do something else, then they do something else. And he has a lot of adaptability. He has a lot of baseball aptitude. And Geoff, again, like you've seen him for years now, he just keeps getting better every time you see him, doesn't he?
Yeah, I think that's the big thing is, he wanted to add impact. He went to drive line. He spent time doing that. He showed improved impact. That continued to creep up the next year. Speed, all those sort of things. If there's an element of his game, I mean, that, is potentially a weak point, he's somebody that's probably as well-versed in that, if not more well-versed than those that might be actually scouting him. He knows the areas that he needs to improve in. And I think just consistently has shown, aptitude and focus to do that. And I think a lot of that just comes down, to the makeup and the type of individual he is. Just, a guy that wants to win, sort of challenges those around him to compete for excellence every single day. And I think in that sense, a lot of like the off the field sort of makeup comps that we got were guys like Derek Jeter, Brady, et cetera. Those sort of upper echelon mentality type of guys. And I think that's what sets him apart and what allows him to sort of get the most out of his skills and continue to improve every offseason.
The point I wanted to make on that really kind of stands out to me is he also has the chance to be really important for baseball, because it has been quite a while since we've had a great Aussie baseball player in the majors, especially a hitter. Dave Nielsen is probably the best Aussie that hitter that we've ever seen in the major leagues. Travis Bazzana has a chance to kind of potentially exceed that. And if he does, you talk about the globalization of the game. And a lot of when we talk about the globalization of the game in the past, 5 to 10 years, it's been how Japanese players who are stars both in the US and in basically Japan, but also Asia. We've seen Korean players who are stars coming over. Obviously, there's the Dominican, there's Mexico, there's even now we're seeing some players from Colombia in addition to Venezuela and Panama and all that. But Australia and New Zealand, especially Australia, are a big part of that as well. And Travis Bazzana could kind of be the first truly star player that we have coming out of Australia in a while, especially as a position player, which is a little different than if you're hoping to see a pitcher pitch, especially if you're hoping to see a reliever. You hope to see Graham Lloyd come into the game, or some of Travis Blackley, some of the pitchers who we've seen over the years coming out of Australia. So I'm really excited also to see from that standpoint what it's going to mean for baseball if Travis Bazzana gives us an Australian position player star.
Yeah, that would be very cool. The other thing that makes him special is he's part of a system that produced a lottery number 1 overall pick, which I think is special too, JJ. I know you've written about the draft lottery quite a bit, and the White Sox are a perfect example right now of a team that set the loss record, and they're going to pick 10th because they're being punished on the opposite end of this. So this is a cool component, and it's not just saying, hey, if you're as bad as possible, you get to take the top player according to your organization.
The Guardians were not expected to get the number 1 pick. I was sitting there in the room when the ping pong balls, and you got to about that last ping pong ball, and you could see Ethan Purser, who was there, and for representing the Guardians, like, I think he's figuring out that this could happen here. And it's one of those things that for them and the Reds, because the Reds also picked second that year, these can be organizational changing moments when that ping pong ball just bounces the right way and you beat the odds to get a number 1 pick. The other thing about this is we've talked about, this is a really good Guardian system. And Geoff, you mentioned like second base is kind of the one opening. The one thing I'll say about that though is whoever you are, including if you're the number 1 pick in the draft of Travis Bazzana, you better grab your opportunity and take it, because there's probably someone else coming trying to snatch that opportunity away from you. Because this is a team that's going to have multiple options at almost every infield and outfield position, I would say, over the next couple of years, especially in the infield.
When you look at organizational depth, that's something that the Guardians have done a great job here, over the last couple of years. And it's allowed them, despite some limitations on spending, to consistently be competitive. And, they've had to get creative with some of that, but a lot of it comes down to their ability to sort of nail picks in the domestic market and in the actual draft, as well as how well they've done internationally, where it seems like every year they got 2 or 3 guys coming out of a crop that are, switch hitting middle infielders with a slick glove or something like that. So they do have a lot of, organizational infield depth. So, for them to be able to add a number 1 overall pick and, a star college hitter on top of it, I think, just further adds to the riches that they have.
All right. If you like what we're talking about here with the top prospect in the Cleveland organization, we have this for every single team. If you're missing one that you're looking back for, it's coming. They get released on a day-to-day, weekday basis during spring training. Let's say you're a Guardians fan, you want to know about the rest of your division and what those top prospects look like. Go for it. We'll have videos for you available on the Baseball America YouTube channel, and we'll see you on the next Prospect Profile.